welcome to my channel. My name is Ayla and I'm gonna be showing you a tutorial today on how to make collars. I'm gonna be showing you how to make like a basic collar, but I think you could always put some lace or ribbon or pleats, as I've done on this one, as you like to make it your kind of collar. So let's get to it, shall we?
I start off with making the pattern out of a shirt with a collar that fits me well. I fold the collar piece in half and mark with pins. I then place the collar onto a piece of paper with the pins alongside the edge of the paper, and I start outlining the collar, lifting the collar but still holding the underpart in place. Here we can change the collars to look however we like, if we want a rounded or a bigger or longer collar. And now for the collar stand, do the same thing, but see here that this collar part swings up instead of down. Make sure that's how your pattern goes. You only have to outline the top part of the collar stand and measure out afterwards how wide you want it to be. The wider you make the collar stand, the more the collar will lift. So I recommend widening it just a little bit so the collar doesn't slouch. Then add 1 cm seam allowance and cut the pieces out. Then take out your fabric and fold it in half, placing your pattern with the paper edge to the folded side. Pin it down and cut it out. Make sure you cut out 2 pieces. One of the pieces, the one that's going to be folded over, you take away a few extra millimeters on the seam allowance. This is so that the tension gets just right on the top collar piece. Then you cut out the collar stand pieces, 2 of these as well. Then you cut out the same pieces in interfacing. Choose a fabric interfacing that has a little stretch in it. Cut out 1 of the top collar pieces and 2 of the collar stand ones, like so. When you've ironed on the interfacing on the back of the pieces, you start pinning together the top collar. Remember that you need to stretch the smaller piece a little to build a pull for the side that's going to show. That side, the bigger piece, is also where we ironed on the interfacing on. Pin the pieces together and sew around like this. And when you're done with that, you cut off the corners so it will be easier to turn around. Cut like I've done and don't cut closer than 2 to 3 millimeters. Then turn the collar right side out, and if you need, you can use a semi-sharp item to help get out the corners. I like to press out the seams with my nails a bit before ironing the collar, so I'm sure that the bottom side doesn't peek out. When I've done that, I can make a top stitch on the collar, sewing a seam about a purser foot's length from the edge. Now that the top collar is done, I place it between the collar stand pieces. Make sure to mark out the middle on both pieces and fit them together. Since the bottom part of the collar is smaller, there should be a little bulge on the upper side. When the top collar is sandwiched between the collar stand pieces, you sew along the top side, like so. To make the collar stand less bulgy, you can cut away a little of the seam allowance at the rounded places. And to make the collar bend properly, you cut small notches in the seam allowance, almost all the way to the seam, along the collar, like this. Then we fold it the right side out and pull on the collar stand pieces and put a pin right under the seam allowance inside the collar so that we can sew a top stitch around the collar stand to make it, well, stand. We fold in the seam allowance on the bottom half, matching the both sides together and putting pins along the way. When you've done that around all the collar stand, you can sew with the top stitch about a purse foot's length from the edge. It's almost done by this point. Now I can look into decorating a bit. I'm putting holographic hearts on mine. But you need a closure of some kind, and buttons with buttonholes are the easiest in my opinion. Just mark out where you want your buttonhole to go and sew it with tiny zigzag on your machine. When that is done, you seam rip the buttonhole open and sew a button on the opposite side of the collar stand. I chose a heart-shaped little button. Isn't it matchy? The collar is done and ready for styling. And now for the styling portion. And here are some other colors that I've made.
So these are just a few examples that you can do to your collar. I would love to see if you make a collar of your own. Please send me pictures or tag me on Instagram. My name is I Love You DIY. I will link it down below. If you don't have the time or energy or so to make your own collar, I will be selling this one. So if you like this one, go grab it on my Instagram. So that was all for today. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and the small styling portion as well. Tell me which one was your favorite. I would love to know. I'll see you next time. And it's gonna be good. Gonna pop myself up. And you love it.